Hey, before we get to the podcast tonight, I just want to let you know that we recorded this last night and had all kinds of issues. Needless to say, I'll explain it at the top of the podcast when we bring Zach and Ryan in. It was a mess of epic proportions. We were trying to change computers left and right. My cats decided they wanted to get into the studio. This is the problem when you are a fledgling small-time podcaster, that sometimes the animals unfortunately take control of the house. And we have two Maine Coon cats that do believe that they control the house, and they literally they ripped, like they were like gangsters. Like it's like I owed them money or something. They ripped the G off the keyboard. They ripped the delete button. They unplugged the microphones. It was like, have my money by tomorrow or else. I mean, it was just all kinds of crazy stuff. So we were able to kind of make it work, and for the most part, we got the pod in. We missed the power rankings at the end, and that was kind of a pain in the ass. But and microphones were just weird, so we're going to get it in there as we did it to the best of our ability, and hopefully it'll still be decent enough for you to listen to. If not, hang around. We'll certainly be back later this week with Peak Cinema we're looking at, and also looking to get Ryan in here as well for a short amount of time. I want to touch base on the big news of the Tuesday, obviously the passing of Mike Leach, the football coach at Mississippi State, a college football coach. And I must say, I spent the whole day just kind of reading stuff on him, and just a very interesting guy, not just from a football perspective, but just an interesting dude in general. Kind of a rough year in sports, bit of a shocker for all of those who like college football. So certainly we'll try to get Ryan in here later this week to chat about that. But if you're missing that on the podcast, it's because we recorded that on a Monday. Had we recorded it today, it probably would have been in the podcast. So that's that. So that's the preamble. I appreciate you taking a second to take the preamble in with me. And now the podcast as best we can present it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That's my buddy Ryan with his little baby right there hanging out on the pod as we're getting the young lad acclimated quickly to what we do around here. Good to have you, Rhino.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Tim. He's going to stick around on the podcast tonight. He'll be around for a little while. He's going to be at Speech on Saturdays this winter and spring. It's, he's been quiet all afternoon, and now he's not. So
yeah, now he's going to cry for the whole podcast.
He just wants to get on the mic, Tim. He just wants to get on the mic.
Well, let him get on. I mean, that's okay. It'll be a 4-way pod next year with him when he's able to actually really form the words. He's going to be great. And on the other side is the coach getting his way into the fantasy football playoffs. I think for the 7th year in a row. I think you might be. Have you made it every year, Zach?
I have made it every year.
So I think you might be the only one that's made it every year in our league, and you have made it for the 7th consecutive year. Congratulations.
Thank you. Backing my way in this week. So, well, we're there, right? That's all that matters.
I had to have it this week, so.
It's truly the case, though, right? We have to give the credit where the credit's due. This league is, our fantasy league is about as wide open as they get, so everybody's got a chance. It's a pretty intense league, and it was a pretty intense season. I'm happy to get in. We weren't looking good early at 1-3. Happy to be in the playoffs as it starts up this week. Let me start with this. I was going to let Ryan go first, and I am going to. Maybe we'll all just take turns, just whatever. But, you leave your goddamn door open down to the studio one night. Cats come in here. And they're like a biker gang. They just came in here and they just fucking looted the place. They broke my keyboard. They've messed up my monitors. They've destroyed everything. I couldn't listen to anything. Couldn't hear anything. I'm on the backup computer. I mean, what a fucking calamity. I don't understand these two little cats, the damage that they could do. It's heartbreaking, I tell you, heartbreaking, and very frustrated. at this. These cats who I thought were my friends, who I thought were my fur babies, have just come down here and betrayed me. And they have destroyed me, and I'm frustrated. And nothing pisses me off more than when the equipment doesn't work. When I come down here and I don't touch a thing and nothing works. Like, just do what I had you do before. Don't change anything. It's like it's got a mind of its own. Frustrated. Am I still hot? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I mean,
okay?
You are a little hot, but I mean, Tim, you're cutting open a vein here, Tim, and we're here for you. I just want you to know that no one on this podcast knows that how frustrating tech can be more than me, who does it professionally. So that's
I'm a big deal with tech guy.
no, I just do it for money. No big deal.
Tim and I both have produced the news at one point.
Yeah, we can produce. I produced a daily newscast that has less tech issues than this.
I'm just saying, I understand. I'm trying to empathize with you, Tim.
Ryan, and the thing that's upsetting to me is that this wasn't even the rant I had scheduled. I planned to give you the floor. The thing I like about we have I just want to let everybody know we have a text thread. The three of us do. And throughout the week, we get on it, we talk back and forth, we break news to each other. We try to stay in the loop so that we kind of have dialogue about stuff during the week when we get to the pod. And on Sundays, it's usually a nice banter, a respectful banter back and forth between the three of us during the Vikings game. Unless the Vikings are losing or Ryan is upset. Because then it becomes something else entirely. Ryan decided, quote unquote, in the text chain yesterday, I'm done with both of you. Quote unquote, he said that. Now that is, to me, them's fighting words. So I didn't want to anger Ryan anymore. I decided to give Ryan the floor tonight on the pod. So Ryan, you said you were done with us.
For the record, you
ahead,
did
Zach.
let him simmer. I tried to press his buttons a few more times.
Now look. There's some very important context that comes with this. We were having a conversation about, obviously I'm heated about the game, but I get heated about games if, they go the wrong way and we still win the game. So, even then, right, I can get heated about a game, but this was different because something was said in this group chat that I simply cannot abide. Harrison Smith is absolutely a Hall of Fame safety. And to get in this thread and to be told by people who I respect your football opinion, by the way, that Harrison Smith is not a Hall of Fame safety, I simply have to be done. I simply cannot continue that line of discourse because it's just abjectly false.
Why is he automatically a Hall of Famer? You can tell the story of football and skip right over him.
You could do the same thing about 100 guys, but he is one of the best safeties in the last 10 years to play the game. At times, the best safety over the last 10 years.
I don't think he's ever been the best safety. Can you say definitively that he's been the best safety? Like first ballot, first in the Pro Bowl, that kind of thing? You could say that?
From 2015 to 2019, he was the best safety in the NFL.
Is he? I'm going to run through some is he better than Troy Polamalu?
I'm glad you brought this up. I want to read some statistics to you. And the statistics aren't my only argument. So,
they can't be because the game has changed.
So we're going to start here. Troy Polamalu started 142 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 142. Harrison Smith has started 155 for the Minnesota Vikings. Troy Polamalu had 32 interceptions. Harrison Smith has 34. He has 12 sacks. Harrison Smith has 16 and a half. Okay. Harrison Smith has 934 tackles. Troy Polamalu had 783. These are comparable numbers. Here's another guy I'd like to throw out at you. Another Hall of Fame player from this year. Leroy Butler. Okay? A guy who I I agreed with Zach, as Zach advocated for Leroy Butler to be a Hall of Fame player. All right. 165 starts, 38 interceptions, 889 tackles, 20 and a half sacks. These are comparable numbers. These are numbers that you can put them kind of on the same playing field here, but this isn't my only part of the case here. Statistics are only one part. Harrison Smith led the best defense in the NFL over a 5-year stretch. The best defense. Statistically.
He led that defense? You don't think like Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, none of those guys led that defense?
He was the guy on that defense, is the guy on that defense. When he is off the field, they are markedly worse. We saw that this weekend. When he is on the field, he is erasing mistakes. He is putting guys in better positions, and he is limiting big plays. Now, he can't control everything. There are going to be breakdowns when you have talent problems on the field, like the Vikings have shown over the last 3 years. But when he's on the field, there is a marked difference between how well that defense plays versus when he's off the field. And that's the mark of a great player. He elevates the players around him. He makes them better. You can't tell me that Cam Bynum is an NFL safety playing by himself. We saw that this weekend. He's just not good. But when Harrison Smith is on the field playing opposite him, he has opportunities to get interceptions. He has opportunities for big plays because Harrison Smith can direct him and put him in position to make those plays. Harrison Smith is a difference maker, and that's the kind of guy who gets into the Hall of Fame. Statistically, just the story of his game, how long he's been around, how long he was at the top of his game, Harrison Smith deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Here's the difference, though, between him and the two guys you mentioned. Okay? First of all, Troy Polamalu played in 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, and was the best defensive player on that team. Leroy Butler played in 2 Super Bowls and won 1. Has Harrison Smith won a playoff game?
Harrison Smith has won multiple playoff games.
I mean, they haven't. They've what? Oh yeah, they played in an NFC Championship one time. Like it's not even close to those two guys.
So he's supposed to suffer because his team has not been able to get there?
It's part of the story.
You did say he was the leader of the number one defense in the league for 5 years. Ed Reed found a way to get to a Super Bowl and win one.
It's part of his story.
Ed Reed had Hall of Fame talent all around him.
I'm not saying he has to win a Super Bowl, but he could at least show up in one.
Steve Atwater got to one, and he was far and away the best defensive player on that Broncos team.
Boat race in the NFC Championship game.
Harrison Smith has been the best player on that defense since he came into the league. Name one player on that Vikings defense that's been better than him for 10 years.
Some would argue Anthony Barr was pretty good. Some would argue Eric Kendricks is pretty good. You've said on this pod that Daniil Hunter is a difference maker, that when he's out there, he is the best player on the field. You've said that.
But consistently, time and time again, it's been Harrison Smith. And when
I'm not saying Harrison Smith's not good. I just think like we're handing a gold jacket to him really fast. I was going to argue I'd give him a purple jacket for the Vikings Ring of Honor. I'll give him that.
Statistically, he matches up with Hall of Fame safeties. He has consistently been ranked by other players and coaches in the NFL as a top 3 safety in the NFL time and time again. The guys in the league see it. The guys in the media see it. Statistically, he matches up. He's a Hall of Fame safety.
The guys in the Hall of Fame, though, if you look at safeties in the Hall of Fame, all have Super Bowls or at least have been in them. Atwater, Ronnie Lott, John Lynch, Ed Reed, Leroy Butler. And these are just the recent ones. You know, if you go back even further, Paul Krause at least went to 4 of them. You know, he didn't win any of them, but he went. I mean, and because of that, he had to wait 20 years. Some would argue he should have gotten in earlier than that.
We're going to sit here and hold safeties to a Super Bowl standard?
That looks like the standard that's in the Hall of Fame. That's not me having that. Bob Sanders ain't getting in.
I'm not asking for Bob Sanders to get in. He couldn't stay on the field.
Is Bob Sanders better than Harrison Smith, though?
I'd take Harrison Smith 10 times out of 10 over Bob Sanders.
I think this is just a case of you getting really defensive because you've realized it's a house of cards and it's all crashing down right now.
I don't think it's crashing down. Here we go. Now you're trying to get a rise out of me.
I will. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh, he's back. Okay, he's out of the shot for a second. Sorry, my computer's. I thought Ryan walked away from the podcast. He can't do that.
Are you going to fire your D coordinator midseason?
No. Look,
is he the worst D coordinator in football?
Should you fire your D coordinator midseason?
No. You're 10-3. You're 10-3.
If KOC was truly collaborative, as they say he is, should he call Mike Zimmer and see what he's doing? Could you imagine how great that would be? Bring back Zim. Comes back.
His defenses were terrible the last 2 years here. They were terrible.
I was just told he had the best defense in the NFL 5 years in a row.
Had the worst defense in the league a couple years in a row, too.
Statistically, the statistics back it up that he had the best defense in the NFL for 5 years.
Let's bring it back.
You might be right. How about the fact that they're probably now officially statistically the worst defense in DVOA and in some of the other advanced metric stats, the Vikings defense. They're the worst, statistically, the worst 10-3 team in the history of football.
Breaking news, man. When you switch systems and you've got guys from the old system and then your best guys get hurt, you're going to take a statistical hit. Sorry, we're on our third string cornerback. What are you going to do?
Everybody's got injuries. I can't listen to that. You're not giving Tampa Bay that.
I'm not giving Tampa Bay that. But
you're not giving
they've been playing in the same system for 3 years. You're on a first-year head coach. What the hell do you want? I'm sorry. You're 10-3 with a new head coach and a new GM. Is that the expectation around here? No, we're playing well above expectation. And suddenly here we are, 10-3, and we're the worst team in football. No, we lost to the Detroit Lions for a hot team. Where we're missing we're missing two of our best players. We're missing 40% of our offensive line, and suddenly it's not an excuse. Okay, sorry. One game here where we're injured and it showed, and we still were within 14 points here, and we had a shot to win that game. But okay, let's talk about how the Vikings are a house of cards. That's great. That makes a ton of sense.
Were you guys injured against Dallas?
Yes, we were missing our left tackle against the best defense in the NFL. Are you kidding me with this?
Gotcha. Left tackle was out. That's why you gave up 40. Okay. How about against Philadelphia?
Oh my God. It's 3 losses. How many do the Packers have this year? Where are they at? When's their playoff game?
8. I'm not.
But they have a lot of injuries. Are you saying now? Can we blame it all on injuries?
I'm not walking around peacocking right now.
I'm not peacocking either.
He's away from the mic. Don't get him upset. That I want him on the microphone, Zach. You got to understand. This is the conflict we need here. We got to settle this like men.
I need free hands.
He's handling the baby. I'm assuming okay. Now you're back. Okay, I was worried. You can't keep walking away from the microphone. I think you're doing it out of anger.
I am doing it out of anger because this is ridiculous. I am not. I don't even know what to say. I'm getting so horrible. Oh my God! You're not peacocking.
You try to argue with people on Twitter all day, and you can't stare down me and Zach for 5 minutes and just
because
talk
you're
about
asking
this?
me questions to get me heated. This is all this is. Oh my God.
No, it's not. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. You said, quote unquote, I'm done with the both of you. I want to get to the bottom of that because all I did.
What are we doing? I just explained that. It's the Harrison Smith thing.
And I'm just challenging the defense. That's all I did was challenge the defense. You said Harrison Smith's not out there. I said, okay, what was the excuse last week when Mike White threw for 388? What was the excuse when Mac Jones threw for 380?
You stopped them in the red zone. You stopped them when it mattered. The whole system has said all year we'll give up yards, we won't give up points. And in all 10 wins, that's been the case.
Are they now not statistically, though, the worst defense
in yards?
In
football? Sure.
Like worse than the Lions.
Okay.
Worse than Aaron Glenn's Lions.
Okay, fine. But you have 10 wins. You're going to win the division. You're going to go to the playoffs. You're going to win a game in the playoffs.
Yeah. Are you?
Is the defense the requisite of playoff victories? Do you think so? I'm asking honestly. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just asking because I don't see how this defense can beat a great team in the playoffs. It's not there right now. I don't
think you have a great team in the playoffs right now other than Philadelphia.
You don't think San Francisco's really good?
I don't think they're great. I think they're beatable.
How about Dallas?
Dallas matches up well against the Vikings. I hope they don't play them, but I don't think they're great. They nearly lost to the Texans, and they did lose to the Packers.
The good news for the Vikings is with Dallas and Philly in the same division, and Philly's not going to give up the 1 seed. So they're not going to have to beat both of those teams.
No.
They'd have to beat one of them to get to the Super Bowl. But I mean,
last question on this, Ryan, and then I'll move on because I don't want you to be angry. I want to move on. I want to give Zach a chance to rant about something too. Are you worried about losing the 2 seed to San Francisco?
No, I'm not,
because they're a game back right now with a better defense.
Let me rephrase that question. Are you nervous about losing it to them? And is the question, if you do lose it to them, does that make you nervous?
No and no. I don't think so. Look, we're playing with house money right now. All right. You're a first-year head coach, first-year GM, 10 wins, likely division title here. Right? The whole game that the GM's playing is, can we be competitive while we retool this roster? And so far the answer is yes. Right? I mean, you've won 10 games. You've been competitive in almost all of these games except for one. I mean,
2.
No, they held the Eagles to 0 points in the second half.
That game was over by halftime. We call it on this podcast. Do we need to go back and get the receipts?
Game. I'm not going to buy it. They held them to 0 points. The point that I'm making here is that you've been competitive in nearly every game, and you've won almost all of them. Okay?
That's fair.
For a team that wasn't supposed to do that, that's good. You get to the playoffs, it's house money.
Okay, so a couple of pieces here. First of all, it was not a 2-score game. They lost 24-7 to the Eagles. And my Coon Rapids math tells me that's more than 2 possessions. Yeah. The other problem here is that they're like, once you're there, right? Like, you have to make use of your opportunities. You can't sit there and go, well, we're going to be really good for a long time, because guess what? That's been the case in Green Bay, and they haven't won a Super Bowl again. Right? So when you're there, you have to make the use of your opportunities. So the house money thing, I don't buy into. Also, here's a question for you. We're talking about retooling the roster and how much better they've been. Can they be competitive while they retool, and that they've done that? But I would argue that they have failed in retooling. They have gotten nothing out of their draft. Nothing. And you talked about earlier about guys like, well, they got guys from the old system, now they need to draft them for the new system. Well, they drafted 5 guys in the first 5 rounds to play defense. And I've got about as many snaps as they do this year. That's a problem.
The Caleb Evans kid has been pretty good for a 4th-round pick when he's on the field. He has obviously had the concussion the last couple of weeks. The Lewis Cine injury hurts, but you weren't expecting him to start right away, right? He's your heir apparent to Harrison Smith here. So I have a hard time measuring drafts on immediate impact if that's not why you're drafting these guys, right? I mean, I don't know what that strategy is, but the idea is that long term, these are guys that are going to be able to step in and play. And even if that's not the case right now, I mean, they could be down the road.
All right. Yeah, and the little guy is speaking up. So he says we need to end this rant. Are you okay, Ryan? Are we good now? Do we have this out in the open?
My whole thing was the Harrison Smith thing.
I still think he's not as good as any of those guys we mentioned. But to be continued on that. Well, here's the thing. Next week, the semifinal list is out for the class of 2023. We'll spend a segment on the pod going through that list to see who you'd take and who you'd leave off.
I'm in for that. That sounds fun.
And then I'll ask, is Harrison Smith more worthy than any of these guys? And then we'll see if that pops up. We'll see if that keeps the conversation going. Hey, if you want to chime in on this, Ryan's at Sweet Cane Music on Twitter, Mr. Tim Anderson, Man vs. Game 1. You can comment on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Tim Podcast. On all of the different places where we have it. Podbean, the website at podbean.com.
I'm sorry
Tim Podcast.
I'm sorry to cut you off here, Tim. You got your own handle wrong here. Yeah, you're at Tim Anderson Pod now.
Tim Anderson Pod now on Twitter. I'm at Mr. Tim Anderson on Instagram. I used to be that on Twitter, but now I'm Tim Anderson Pod on Twitter. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. Chime in on that too. If you think Harrison Smith's a Hall of Famer, let us know. I don't know if that'll be the title of this pod, but we got to come up with something that's going to drive some listeners. I wonder if Ryan's angry about Harrison Smith will be a good episode title. I don't know. What you will think about that. We'll workshop it as the pod goes along. Guys, so it was a crazy day in the NFL, as you can obviously tell. You're red hot. What I'm upset about is, I don't hear Tampa Bay getting those excuses. They're killing Tom. Shannon Sharp went out there and killed Tom this morning, and he's got no offensive line, no defense, wide receivers are hurt, and everybody sucks. Coach is terrible. Coach is catatonic. Nobody says anything. But I'll say this. Headline for me, though, outside of Tampa getting killed, was San Francisco looks really good even with a third-string quarterback playing. What other takeaways did you take away from yesterday? I was thoroughly impressed with San Francisco. Zach, what did you think?
I think the Dolphins are in trouble. They have not looked like they had earlier in the year. They struggled against a Chargers team that has been okay, but we're not overly in love with them either. And the Dolphins' schedule is not easy coming up here, so I think they got to figure some stuff out. It's still maybe not a team you want to draw in the playoffs, but they've definitely got their warts. Mahomes continued to force the ball through 3 more interceptions. I'd be worried if I were them. And just kind of summing up the whole deal here with the Vikings is that the reality is they're not going to move beyond 3, right? They're going to be 2 or 3. They don't have a shot at 1 anymore, I don't think.
No.
They're not going to drop to 4. So the reality is it doesn't matter. None of it matters now because do you care if you play Washington or New York in the first round?
Not really.
Yeah, and the difference is, right, I guess if you're the 3, then you have to go to San Francisco in the second round. That's the difference. But whatever happens here the next few weeks, although there is an outside chance the only way the Packers make it pretty much lines them up to play Minnesota in the first round.
Yeah, and I think that line of thinking probably lines up with why the Vikings have been so conservative with injuries in the last couple of weeks, leaving guys off the field that could probably otherwise play. Is they're looking at the math and saying, right now we're not really worried about being the 2nd or 3rd seed. We're probably not going to be the 1st seed. As long as we don't have to play Dallas, we're probably okay. And I think that's as long as Dallas remains good and in the 5 seed, and obviously we're not going to get caught by the NFC South because they're just a garbage heap right now.
Yeah,
you're feeling pretty good about where you're at. You can just kind of get guys healthy, and see if you can move into the playoffs with a healthy roster and a decent record. And I think you're right, Zach, on the second round. I wouldn't want to go to San Francisco, but I'd take going to San Francisco over having to play Dallas at all.
I think it's not even so much of having to go to San Francisco. I think it's not having San Francisco come to you. That's the bigger deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like going to San Francisco doesn't worry me, but I would much rather have them coming into, the giant space.
Yeah. Cause they've also not played well on the road, San Francisco. They've been a really, really good home team. They've not been as good on the road this year.
Yeah, they're 6-1 at home, 3-3 on the road.
It's a very fascinating thing to watch as we looked at this playoff picture kind of take shape yesterday. There's some teams that kind of got themselves back in it. Also some teams that I think, as you mentioned with Miami, and we'll talk about them shortly, a lot of teams that seem to put themselves in a bad place or even maybe put themselves out potentially. Teams that played themselves into it somehow. Detroit played themselves. I mean, they're outside shot still. They're not in it yet, but they're back in it at 6-7. You can't rule them out at this point. And then Carolina going up to Seattle, winning that game. They've got a formula right now that looks successful for winning. And Tampa's like, Tampa falls behind double digits in every game they play, and if Tom doesn't will them back, they lose, and they lose big. So, like going forward, Carolina's in that thing at 5-8. Those are the two things that came away for me yesterday. I was very impressed with Carolina and Detroit, not impressed with Tennessee, Miami, and I'm not mad at the Jets for losing in Buffalo the way they did. They covered barely, but it just, you start looking at them and it's like, I don't think the weapons are there anymore. Like Mike White is he's gutsy. I like that, but I don't think they can score on anybody. Like they can move the ball. They just, except the Minnesota Vikings, but they just can't score against anybody. Like they really struggled against Buffalo yesterday. And I'm still not sure that the coach makes enough great decisions with clock management to get me on board. So that's what.
Yeah, they've dropped out of the playoffs now, and they've also created a quarterback issue for the next year. Because what are they going to do next year at quarterback? They drafted one again. They trading
you're not going to have a great draft pick to pick a quarterback.
Yeah, I know. I mean, are they trading for Jordan Love?
Are they trading for Jimmy Garoppolo? Could the Niners?
Are they going to go get Aaron Rodgers?
Could the Niners?
Just like all the scenarios.
Could the Niners decide they want to rock with Brock Purdy and trade Jimmy G?
Trey Lance.
I mean,
what if Trey Lance becomes available?
What if Brock Purdy sticks around and wins you a couple of playoff games, gets you in a position to maybe go to the Super Bowl?
I
think the guys are rallying around him.
They'll still go back to Trey Lance if he does that, because that's what Jimmy G did. Jimmy G won him a couple playoff games and got him chances at a Super Bowl, and they still said, fuck it.
What if he gets to a Super Bowl? What if Brock Purdy does what Case Keenum couldn't do? Because I'm convinced Case Keenum would have been brought back here in Minnesota if he went to a Super Bowl. Do you think if Brock Purdy takes them to a Super Bowl, Brock Purdy's got to have the job next year?
I certainly think it opens more dialogue prior to training camp, and then you can call it an open competition because you got a guy coming back from a catastrophic injury versus the guy who led you on a deep run if that happens. And I think that then you've at least got to have an open competition.
Well, the fans he's got goodwill with the fans if he does that. It's hard to turn that around. And
they're chanting, Purdy, Purdy, Purdy at at Levi's Stadium. So, I mean, it's easy to do that when you're up 35-0 on the Bucs. But.
And it's the problem the Jets have because the fans and the players seemingly have rallied around Mike White. And Ryan, do you think it was a little odd yesterday that Wilson didn't even dress, that they went to Flacco as the second string? And does the fact that Wilson didn't dress as the third string tell you that they're not at any point interested in having him redress and come back on the field?
I think that the dressing is obviously part of that, but they can call that an injury, whatever they want to call it. But I mean, Garrett Wilson going out there and saying that Mike White handles himself like a pro and not like a buffoon, with the buffoonery, like referencing what Wilson did in meetings and stuff like that. I think that's a bigger tell for me. When you've got rookie receivers coming out and saying this guy's a clown, I don't bode well for your future, I don't think.
Okay, but the rookie receiver is kind of a clown too, so grain of salt.
How is Garrett Wilson a clown?
Have you seen him on the sideline stomping around?
Here comes rant number 2. Picking on Ohio State, guys.
Garrett Wilson's the best rookie receiver this year.
False. Best rookie receivers in Green Bay.
Oh, I'm done.
He's played half the games and he's got more touchdowns.
Sit back down. Damn it. You stop getting out of your damn chair. You hear me, Ryan? Get back in that chair.
You can't be
get up and walk around here.
You got one playing with Mike White and the other's got Aaron Rodgers. Come on. It's not a competition.
Oh, Jesus.
What if you're both wrong and it's Chris Olave because he has to catch passes from Andy Dalton?
You know what? Another Ohio State guy. Let's go.
We'll get to them before this podcast is over. Because they lucked their way into the playoffs, and now all is well in Columbus. All is well in the world. Ryan Day is the coach of the year. Here we go. We're back. When Georgia runs Ohio State by 30, what will happen in Columbus?
Really clear that I fully anticipate. I fully anticipate that that's exactly what's going to happen. I think they match up decently against Georgia and that Georgia doesn't defend the deep pass very well, but I fully anticipate that this is a team that's going to get their ass kicked by Georgia. And I'm hoping that that's enough to give old Coach Day the bootaroonie, because around these parts we expect winning. And
he's got like a 900 winning percentage. We expect winning around here. We're not winning nearly enough. Not enough, I tell you.
It's easy to rack up a 900 winning percentage when you're playing teams like Rutgers and Maryland and, not having to, play in the SEC. So when you play teams that are real competition, I expect you to win. And they're not beating teams that are real competition. So,
Peach just got a 7-year contract extension to go play Syracuse in the Pinstripe Bowl, and you're talking about a 900 winning coach.
Yeah, that's the difference between the M standing for mediocrity and the block O.
That stands for what? What does the O stand for?
Yeah, right. Okay.
They're overrated. They're not the fourth best team. Get them out of there.
Yeah. Who's better than them?
Well, we know Michigan beat them by, 50?
Well, Michigan's rated ahead of them, so congratulations. Well, who else? Who should be in there instead of them?
Do you think if Alabama played them straight up today that they would lose to Alabama?
Yes, they would. They would. If they played today, Alabama would be favored by 7.
And they'd lose because Alabama's defense is not as good as it's been in years past, and Ohio State can throw the ball all over them.
Are they going to stop the run?
Hopefully. God.
Yeah, hopefully.
The problem, man.
Cross my fingers.
I'm not in denial about our defense, man. It's our offense that's going to win us games.
Out of all the teams that are in the playoffs right now, as we move on, guys, of all the teams that are in the playoff, like if the top 7 of each side, is there a team that you're like, I don't think they're going to be there at the end? Like if you just looked at either side, and I don't have that right in front of me, but obviously we'd tell you who they are if you looked at those wild card teams. Both the Giants and the Commanders, the Cobra Commanders, are in right now. The Cowboys are obviously the other wild card team. If you go to the AFC side, it's Tennessee's going to probably win the division, although Jacksonville's coming on a little bit. Tennessee's really struggling. But you have Miami. You have I'm drawing a blank now officially on who else is getting in.
Okay, so if we're talking about the NFC, we touched on it earlier, but Dallas and the Eagles are going to have to play each other in the second round. So that's going to eliminate a contender right there. And the reality then becomes, we don't really buy into we don't buy into the Giants, we don't buy into the Commanders, we don't buy into whoever wins the AFC South or the NFC South, sorry. So you're talking about the contenders being the 49ers, the winner between Dallas and Philadelphia, and then Minnesota. Right? I think realistically, those are the 3 teams that have a chance.
And does that mean then, but does one of those teams not make it and somebody else sneak in? Obviously, Tampa seems vulnerable, right? Tampa for Carolina, but could a Green Bay, could a Detroit?
Oh, you're saying who's not going to make the playoffs? That's your question?
Yeah, out of the teams that are in, who do you hate? Like who do you think's not going to make it if you could pick one? Like is the Commanders Giants game this week sort of I don't want to call it a loser leaves town, but do you think that say Detroit beats the Jets and they're 7-7, and the momentum of the Commanders Giants loser is that enough to flip that?
I think if I had to pick a team to miss, I'd pick the Chargers to miss. Because they're 7-6, and the Jets are 7-6, and the Patriots are 6-6 pending tonight's finish. And as much as we think the Chargers can do good things, like we also don't trust them, right? We've been through that so many times. We don't like their coaching situation. They continue to struggle, defensively at times. They make some boneheaded decisions, so I could see them fading away.
I want to ask a couple. Go ahead, Ryan, please.
Say I would not sleep on the possibility, considering their schedules moving forward, that Tennessee might drop out of that spot in the AFC South.
Like Jacksonville takes it over?
I mean, the Tennessee's got a pretty difficult schedule moving forward outside of a game against the Texans, but the Jags also have a game against the Texans. And considering the momentum right now, I don't know if I could vote against or root against the Jags here, and they have to play each other in Week 18. So even if the Jags lose to the Cowboys, and the Titans beat the Texans, there's a legitimate possibility that next week, if the Titans lose to the Chargers, that Week 18 we're going in there and it's winning in for either of those teams.
Yeah, I think the problem with that one is that it is a 2-game lead, and the Jags just aren't consistent, right? I mean, they got hammered by the Lions last week. They got beat by the Broncos, right? I mean, they lost to the Colts, and they lost to the Texans, right? So I can't trust the Jaguars to catch anyone.
I feel like the Jags are playing better, though. I would say that. Detroit boat raced them. I thought they played well last week. I also just kind of, you like their coach in a spot down the stretch to maybe rattle off a couple. Like, would you be shocked if Dallas went into Jacksonville and lost this weekend?
Yes.
You would be shocked.
Yeah, the
Ryan,
same way I would
shocked?
have been shocked if they lost to the Texans. I just don't think that. I think that the Cowboys are just that much better than the Jags, but the Cowboys do have a tendency to play down to some teams, and I guess shocked might be the wrong word. I mean, it would be very surprising if they went into Jacksonville and lost.
Let's get to the prediction segment and the eliminator and the power rankings as we wind down this podcast for Week 15. First of all, prediction segment coming into tonight. Once again, 3 straight weeks where all of us go 2-3. In different ways, too. We're not picking the same games, just the way it works, the way it shakes out. Heading into this week, Zach still leads by 1 game, 34-26. Ryan and I are both 33-27. Good luck with that. Here we go. 5 games. I decided after the Vikings stuff that we would just leave them off the power rankings this week in the matchup against the Colts. Didn't want to start any fights, or not in the prediction segment. No fights, no Packer game, no Viking game. Here we go. Number 1. Ryan, throw it to you first. The San Francisco 49ers are at the Seahawks. Seahawks are struggling. Niners are 3.5-point favorites.
Oh, this game is in San Francisco?
In Seattle.
In Seattle. Yeah.
And a Thursday night game, too.
Yeah. Niners don't play great on the road. The problem with the Seahawks is not their defense itself. It's been kind of consistency. Playing on a Thursday night, I think the advantage goes to the home team. I'm going to take Seattle in that game.
Got it.
Yeah.
Seattle 3 points, maybe win it. Go ahead. Zach?
The Thursday night is the piece that makes it tough for me, but I'll stay with the 49ers here. I'll go against you, Ryan, and give you a chance to pick up that game. I think that they've shown they can win with the backup quarterback. They can win a variety of ways. I'd be interested to see. It sounds like Debo's going to miss the game too.
Concerned about that.
But they've found other ways, and they're doing other things pretty successfully. So I think it's the right move to go with the 49ers here.
I'm going to take San Francisco too. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say my big concern is a short week with a young quarterback who now has tape on him going against one of the better defensive coaches in the NFL on the road on Thursday night. So I just think that if there's going to be a letdown on San Francisco's schedule, I think it might be this week, and then they'll pick it up again.
That's fair. I mean, that is a fair thing to say. I'm just going to go. I think they've got injuries too, and I think they're kind of like, you just think they're starting to check out. They've lost like 4 of their last 5. It's not that Geno's playing bad, but they're getting behind. They're having to try to come back, and they just don't have enough weaponry to do it outside of DK Metcalf. So I'll take San Francisco to win this game too. I'm sure Al Michaels will be good and salty for it because you could tell he's not having any fun calling shitty games. So I'm sure he'll enjoy this one at least. This is a fun one. Detroit at the Jets. It's a pick. It's a pick 'em. You get a very few pick 'ems in Vegas. So this is just a straight up game. Detroit versus the Jets. Zach?
This one I really struggled with because, we've talked about my general betting rules, and my general betting rules would say to take the Jets. But I just feel like the Lions are playing better right now, and the only spot I take the Lions is I think their quarterback's better. I don't think
Goff's better.
I don't think their head coach is better. I don't think their defense is better. So I'm going to stick with my rules. They've done well for me for the most part. I'm going to take the Jets.
Hey Ryan, what do you got?
I am. I'm with Zach on this. I think I'm just going to talk through it for a second. So I think that Detroit is playing really well, but I think that when Detroit starts to get on a bit of a run, they start to play a little loose, and when they play loose, they make some coaching mistakes, thinking they can do anything. And I think that they start to make some calls and roll the dice a few too many times. Really, Dan Campbell should be coaching Vegas because of the way he rolls the dice so constantly. He just keeps putting the money on the table and just letting them fly.
Yeah, he's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, he is. And while I respect it, I don't think that plays well against the number 4 defense in the NFL and in New York on the road. I'm going to take the Jets.
Yeah, he's nuts. He's crazy. I think Penny Sewell said, he's got the biggest nuts on the team. Dan Campbell does, which fascinating coming from your left tackle to say that. But the team is rallied around it. Like you could tell the players do dig him. Like they follow him. They want it. They want him to be the coach there. And I think they've rallied for him after all that talk of they're going to fire Campbell. It's not working. They've really rallied around him, and it started to work. I still think it's insane. Half the calls he makes are I would never do it, wouldn't do it in a million years. But for whatever reason, he gets away with it. He's going to make 3 crazy calls a game, and sometimes they're going to work out. I'm going to take Detroit. I think Goff is playing really well, and he's playing at a really high level, and a road win here would be big. I'm going to take Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. All right, next one, Ryan. Tennessee Titans are at the Chargers. Chargers just got a big win. Titans coming off a couple of bad losses. Who gets right and who stays right? Chargers are 3-point favorites.
Well, I'm going to take a look at one thing here real quick. So actually, let's go to Zach on this just real quick. So I got to look at one thing.
All right, Zach.
Say that again.
Who's going to go with it? Got the Titans at the Chargers, 3-point favorites for the Chargers. Who do you like?
I think that the Titans are going to win this one. I think they've been taking the ball out of Henry's hands a little bit, some wear and tear, because I think they are comfortable in their position. They know they're going to make the playoffs. But like Ryan said, it's tightened up a little bit in their division to the point where I think they'll go back to what they're good at. They'll give them the ball, and they're gonna do enough to take down the Chargers.
Ryan,
I go the other way on this. I think that what we're seeing is a pattern from Tennessee, and I don't think they have the firepower to keep up with LA. On the road, going cross country also plays against them. I'm going to take LA to win this game.
Chargers, for me, have to win 2 in a row like this for them to really prove anything to me. I feel like anytime they get some positive mojo, they tend to kind of take a step backwards. And until further notice, I'm not sure I've seen enough of them stringing games together for me to buy it. So I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans to win a road game, get back in this thing. And quite frankly, both teams are desperate. They have to have it. I think Tennessee, even though they're a little safe in their division, they've lost 3 in a row. You don't want to lose 4 in a row. You start getting down that road, things start to become difficult. So I'll take Tennessee. Ryan, I'll throw this one at you since you deferred it back to Zach. The Giants at the Cobra Commanders. The Cobra Commanders are 4.5-point favorites over the Giants.
Yeah, I think this speaks to the surface they're playing on. I know they both have to play on it, but anytime you got to go to FedEx Field late in the season and the grass has been all chewed up, it's all messy and gross down there with some potential weather on the East Coast, I'm going to take the team who I think has the better defense, and that's the Washington Commanders for me. I'm going to take them in this game. Yeah,
the Giants seem to be trending in the wrong way big time. and Washington's trending up, so I'll go with Washington.
I'm with you there too. I'm going to take the Commanders as well. I think the Giants, shot their wad early in the season. I just think they're undermanned. They don't have the guys, and they were playing, they were punching above their weight in a big way in the first 6-7 weeks. But now, you're seeing it. If you don't have the guys, you're not going to win these games late in the year. They just don't have the guys. So I will take Washington as well. I avoided the Dolphins-Bills game because it sounds like they're going to be playing in 7 inches of snow. It's really hard to kind of get a read on that. So I decided to go to the Jacksonville-Dallas game. Dallas at Jacksonville. Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites, but Jacksonville always plays everybody tough at home, and I think they're a tough matchup here. Zach, where do you go?
We talked about this earlier. I said I would be shocked if Jacksonville won that game, and I think the Cowboys are going to cover. They're getting a lot out of Tony Pollard recently. He's playing well, and so I'm gonna go with the Cowboys.
I would agree. I agree with Tony Pollard. He's really playing well for them. I agree. Ryan?
I think this game's going to be a little closer than we think it is, just because I think that Jacksonville defense is where they're starting to come together a little bit. They are when playing at home, I should say, they're doing well with their young athletes. Their young players are where they're starting to find some success. And that's going to be a matter of consistency for them because young players are never really all that consistent. So I do think Dallas is going to win, but I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover.
Jacksonville covers. I like that, Ryan. I'm with you on that. I kind of like Jacksonville to either win or cover. I think they're going to play Dallas tough, and I think Dallas is playing with a little fire here. I think that loss to the Texans, or that almost loss to the Texans, was a little scary. Not saying that they're a bad team, because they're not. They're a very good team with a very good defense. But on grass, it is different. We saw that when they went and played Green Bay. They're not the same team on grass that they are on turf. They're not the same team outside that they are inside. And I think they've got to win a road game on grass to get me talking. Their road wins this year have been on turf. Let's see them go out and win this game, because they're not going to be able to play as fast. Their defense is going to be neutralized a little bit. And if we get rain or we get some bad weather somewhere, that could change things immensely. So give me Jacksonville to cover that one.
They're also a Mike McCarthy team late in the season, so I don't trust that at all.
Well, there is that. The fact that Zach even went with them this late in the season with McCarthy as the coach is kind of a surprise. All right, let's go to the eliminator. We're running out of teams, guys. Running out of teams, and I do think we're gonna get picked off by an NFC team this year. I think that's gonna happen. But let's try to eliminate a team anyway. I feel like the Colts make sense to me. Like, we haven't eliminated them yet, and I feel like we should, because they're behind Jacksonville in the standings. They're 4-8-1. Yes, they didn't play last week, but I thought actually it was bad that they didn't play last week. They lost ground without even playing. It's not like they gained anything. It's either that or the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think those are the two teams as well. And they are behind the Browns as well, by a half game. So I think it's time to dump the Colts.
And I was holding out hope for Jeff Saturday, and I don't even think he's done a bad job. I really don't. But they needed to win some of these tight games. The Dallas loss was discouraging to me. I just don't see how there's a way back. And now they got to go play Minnesota at Minnesota. So if the Vikings are going to, although watch Matty Ice throw for 390 and 3 against this defense, but who knows? I still think they're going to lose this game this week to the Vikings. I think the Vikings get back right and they beat this Colts team. Ryan, do you like the Colts as well, or do you want to go somewhere else? I know you're on the Browns wagon for a couple weeks.
I was. Have we eliminated the Cardinals?
Yes, in week 9.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm on the Colts. I don't think we can't eliminate any NFC South teams at this point.
No, we can't.
That I think that the Falcons and the Panthers both being right there with the Bucks losing precludes us from doing.
Yeah, we can't eliminate the Saints. The Saints are our last hope in the NFC South, and we need them to.
We can't. Tampa can still just win it. I mean,
yeah, we need Tampa to still just win that and then be done with that.
Yeah,
but we still got to dodge the Cobra Commanders, which means the Packers, who we haven't eliminated yet, need to make a run.
I will say that anytime you're surrounded by teams we've already eliminated is a good indicator to me that you should probably be eliminated. And I'm looking at my conference standings right now, and I see the Browns, Steelers, and Raiders above the Colts.
Yep.
So I'm thinking the Colts are the play.
All right, Colts. Tribe has spoken. Time for you to go. And you are out of here for the season. Best of luck to them. I don't know what's going to happen to them next year. That's a team that's in big flux. They need to do some stuff in a hurry. Who knows what they're going to do? All right, power rankings. Let's close this pod out with a bang here today. Number 5 in the pod in the power rankings. Ryan, I'll throw to you first.
My number 5 team this week is man, this is tough just because there's a lot of teams that I think kind of fit into this 5 spot. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to keep the Vikings at 5.
Vikings at 5. Okay.
There's a lot of shuffling in mine this week. Some of that has to do with these quarterback injuries and things that have gone down. It's shuffled mine for sure. My number 5 team is the Cowboys.
Dallas. All right, Dallas is 5. I like that. My 5. This week I really tried to watch and just see like who are 5 teams that I think can win the Super Bowl. And I tried to. So they shuffled a little, not a ton. Dallas moves from 2 to 5. It was at this point where, as you could probably guess, everything just shit the bed. Not that it didn't sound that way before that. The microphones were terrible. I was terrible. I take full responsibility for the podcast this evening. Just wasn't very good. I promise you it'll be better in the future. But at least you got your fix, right? You got a little bit up to speed about who we eliminated and what we made for predictions. But listen, we are going to be making it up to you next week. Promise you that. Big fantasy football trash talk happening this week. I got a first-round bye. Ryan and Zach have a rematch this weekend. So that's going to lead the pod off next Monday. Ooh, boy, I know you can't wait for that. So everybody's going to be coming around the pod this week. We're going to get Ryan. I got to make Ty get on here. It's going to be a fun time here as we get ourselves towards the holiday season. I want to thank you, as always, for listening. You guys have been amazing. Appreciate the support that I get. Get some nice comments from folks every now and again, reaching out and talking about how much they've enjoyed the podcast. So I do appreciate you guys very much. I want to continue to tell you to subscribe, tell a friend, all of that good stuff. So until next time, for Tim, saying keep your head up. We'll see you.